Jake Morrison held his coffee mug with both hands, savoring the last shipment of real earth beans he'd managed to requisition before being shipped off to this backwater conservation post. Across the briefing table, Commander Vex Theron loomed, all 7 feet of scaled muscle and reptilian pride, his golden eyes gleaming with what Jake had learned to recognize as impending condescension. "The Renclaws are apex predators," Vex announced, mandibles clicking with emphasis. 4 meters of pure hunting evolution, claws that can shred titanium alloy, pack tactics refined over millions of years. He leaned forward, talons scraping the metal table. "This is no task for a soft-worlder." Jake took a sip of coffee. "Uh-huh. Perhaps you misunderstand, human Jake. Your species evolved on a garden world. Prey animals. Your fight-or-flight response is heavily weighted toward flight." Vex's chest plates flared, a Scaric's gesture of magnanimity. "There is no shame in remaining with the ship. We are, after all, specifically adapted for the hunt." "Right." Jake set down his mug. "Quick question. How many generations has it been since your species actually had to hunt for food?" Vex's head tilted. "That is irrelevant. The instincts remain. Pure. Undiluted." "Sure. And how long have humans been hunting?" "Your data files suggest approximately 2 million years, though most of that was scavenging and gathering, not true predation." Vex waved a dismissive claw. "My people have been apex predators for 60 million. Jake stood, stretching. His standard-issue ranger gear looked ridiculous next to Vex's ornate hunting armor. "Cool, I'm coming anyway. This is foolishness. The human bone structure is weak. Your stamina is pathetic. You have no natural weapons, no armor plating, no enhanced senses. You will be a liability." "Probably." Jake grabbed his pack. "But I'm bored, and the coffee's getting low, so maybe we can wrap this up quick." Vex's translator struggled with Jake's tone, settling on sarcastic resignation, with a 73% confidence rating. The commander clicked his mandibles in what might have been frustration or amusement. Hard to tell with Scarix. "Very well. But when the Renclaws charge, human Jake, do not expect me to shield you with my body." "Wouldn't dream of it, buddy." The hunting party assembled on the landing pad. Vex, naturally, plus Crix and Thornak, 2 other Scarix hunters who regarded Jake with the sort of bemused tolerance usually reserved for house pets, insisting on following their owners outside. Their gear gleamed in Krasthul's orange sunrise, energy weapons humming, armor servos whirring. Jake wore boots, cargo pants, and a jacket. He carried a tranquilizer rifle, a knife, and a water bottle. Crix chittered something in Scarix that the translator rendered as, "Is the human aware this is not a nature walk?" "He insists on participating," Vex replied. "We will demonstrate proper hunting technique. Perhaps it will be educational." "Educational," Jake muttered, following them toward the tree line. Sure, the forest of Krasthul was impressive, he had to admit. Trees like cathedral pillars, bioluminescent fungi casting purple shadows, the air thick with alien pollen that made his nose itch. Somewhere in this wilderness, a pack of Renclaws had been attacking settlements, killing livestock, terrifying colonists. Vex raised a clawed hand, signaling a halt. "From here we track silently, every movement calculated, every sense heightened. This is the way of the true predator." Jake nodded, watching Vex's armor servos grind loudly with each step. This was going to be a long day. The Scaric's idea of stealth was, Jake decided, essentially non-existent. Vex crashed through the underbrush like a parade, his armor's targeting system emitting a steady series of chirps and pings. Crix and Thornak flanked him, energy weapons sweeping back and forth, the hum of their power cells audible from 50 meters away. Every few minutes, Vex would announce their position via comlink, presumably so the other hunters could coordinate. Jake wondered if the Renclaws were listening. He would be if he were a Renclaw. "There." Vex pointed with one massive claw. "Fresh spoor, less than an hour old." Jake glanced at the disturbed earth. The tracks were obvious enough, sure. But Vex had walked right past 3 other signs. Claw marks on a tree trunk at exactly Renclaw height, a tuft of dark fur caught on a thorn bush, and the unmistakable musk scent of territorial marking. "You gonna follow those tracks?" Jake asked. Obviously. That is how hunting works, human Jake. Cool, cool. Just so you know, those tracks lead directly toward that rocky outcropping with all the hiding spots and high ground. Vex's golden eyes narrowed. Excellent observation. The creature has made a tactical error by retreating to a position we can surround. Or it's leading you exactly where it wants you to go. Humans, Vex announced to the others, have an unfortunate tendency toward paranoia, a side effect of being prey animals. They advanced on the rocks. Jake hung back, watching the tree line. Something was off. The forest had gone quiet. No insect analogues buzzing, no bird things calling. Just silence. The wren claw exploded from behind a boulder. It was, Jake had to admit, impressive. 4 meters of muscle, midnight fur, claws like scythes. It moved with liquid grace, covering the distance to Vex in 3 bounds. The Scarix responded exactly as Jake expected. They panicked. Energy weapons discharged wildly. Crix screamed something about his ancestors. Thornick triggered his armor's defensive charge, which did nothing but create a small electromagnetic pulse that knocked out Vex's targeting system. Vex himself backpedaled, tripped over his own tail, and discharged his weapon into a tree which promptly caught fire. The Wrenclaw paused, tilted its head as if amazed by this display, and then bounded away into the forest. Jake hadn't moved. He'd been watching the Wrenclaw's eyes, its ear position, the way it had committed only 60% of its weight to the charge. It had been testing them, not attacking, probing for weakness. Coward, Vex roared, regaining his feet. It fled from our superior firepower. Sure did, Jake said. You hesitated, human Jake. In that crucial moment you failed to fire. Your prey instincts betrayed you. Jake knelt by the Wrenclaw's tracks. The creature had been alone, but the track showed asymmetric weight distribution on the right foreleg. Injured, maybe, or just old. Either way, not the alpha. The alpha would have sent the expendable pack member to test the hunters, which meant the rest of the pack was watching, evaluating. We continue, Vex declared. The creature is weakened, afraid. We have established dominance. Jake looked at the burning tree, the scorch marks on the rocks, the scattered equipment where Thornick had dropped half his gear in panic. Yep, total dominance. Over the next hour, Jake started noticing patterns. The Wrenclaw tracks led them in a wide circle, not escaping, herding. 3 different times, Jake spotted evidence of other pack members, tracks paralleling their route, scat marking their path, the disturbed undergrowth of a large creature moving just out of sight. Hey Vex, Jake called. You notice we're being followed? Impossible. Wrenclaws lack the intelligence for complex tactics. Right, hey, how many Wrenclaws are usually in a pack? Vex consulted his datapad. 5 to 8 individuals. And how many have we seen direct evidence of in the last hour? 1. The coward who fled. Jake counted on his fingers. I've seen tracks from 5 different animals, 3 different sizes. 1 juvenile based on the pad spacing. 2 definitely larger than the one that charged us. You are imagining things. Maybe. Or maybe they're doing to us what wolves do to elk back home. What do wolves do? Test, separate, exhaust, kill. Jake adjusted his pack. Usually in that order. Crix chittered nervously. Thornick's hand moved toward his weapon. Vex's chest plates flared. We are Scarix. We are the apex predators of 3 dozen worlds. We do not get hunted by primitive animals. Cool, Jake said, looking at the darkening sky. Just thought you should know. By the 2-hour mark, the Scarix were flagging. Vex had removed his helmet, his scales glistening with exertion. Crix was breathing in harsh, rapid gasps that his translator rendered as mild distress but which Jake recognized as full-blown exhaustion. Thornack had simply stopped, leaning against a tree, his armor's climate control system whining with overuse. Jake was, by contrast, just getting warmed up. We should rest, Vex announced, attempting to sound commanding rather than desperate. To conserve energy for the final confrontation. Sure thing. Jake didn't stop walking, He was following the rendclaw tracks but also watching the angle of the sun, the moisture in the air, the way the vegetation changed. They were heading upslope, toward rockier terrain. The rendclaws preferred denning territory, if his pre-mission research was accurate. "Human, Jake, I said we are resting." "I heard you, I'm going to keep tracking. Catch up when you're ready." "That is tactically unsound. We should remain together." Jake paused, turned. The three Scarix looked like they'd run a marathon, which, he supposed, they basically had. 2 hours of moderate hiking in full armor in a humid alien forest, chasing an animal that had been leading them in circles. "Let me ask you something," Jake said. "Back on your homeworld, how did your ancestors hunt?" Vex's mandibles clicked. "Ambush tactics, short explosive bursts of speed. Overwhelming force applied to vulnerable prey." "Right. Sprint predators like cats." Jake took a drink from his water bottle. "Humans are distance predators. We don't sprint. We just keep going, and going, and going, until whatever we're chasing literally can't run anymore." "That is absurd. No predator hunts through simple persistence." "Yeah, we do. Did. Still do in some places." Jake gestured at the tracks. "Back on Earth, humans would pick out an antelope. Big, fast thing. Could outrun us easy in a sprint. So we'd just jog after it. It would run away, stop to rest. We'd catch up. It would run again, stop again. We'd catch up again. After a few hours, it would be too exhausted to run. We'd walk right up and kill it." Thornak made a sound that the translator interpreted as horrified disbelief. "Your species' persistence hunted prey to death?" Vex asked. "Still do sometimes. It's how we evolved. Best endurance runners in Earth's animal kingdom. We can outlast horses, wolves, deer, pretty much anything." Jake shouldered his pack. "The trick is knowing when your prey is tired and when it's just leading you somewhere. And which is this?" "Both, probably." Jake pointed at the tracks. "This rendclaw is tired. See how the claw marks are dragging slightly? It's not lifting its feet as high, but it's also leading us uphill, toward rocky terrain where they have the advantage. Smart animal." "Then we should not follow." "Nah, we should definitely follow, because they're assuming we'll get tired first. They're expecting us to give up, make camp stop being a threat." Jake smiled. "But I'm not tired, and I really want to know where their den is." He started walking again. Behind him, he heard Vex's translator struggling with a series of Scarix curses that apparently had no human equivalent. The next hour was educational. Jake narrated as he went, mostly to keep himself entertained, but also because the Scarix, stumbling along behind him, seemed morbidly fascinated. "See that broken branch? Rendclaw fur. Happened in the last 30 minutes because the sap hasn't oxidized yet." He knelt by a disturbed patch of earth. "This is a scrape mark. Territorial behavior usually done by the alpha. Male based on the urine scent." "You can distinguish gender by scent?" Crix asked, horrified. "Can't you?" "Our olfactory sensors are designed for detecting chemical weapons and atmospheric toxins." "Right. Well, humans have about 5 million scent receptors. Not as good as dogs, but way better than most primates." Jake stood, brushing off his knees. "Also, fun fact, humans can literally smell fear. We pick up on chemical changes in sweat and hormones." Vex had gone very quiet. Jake glanced back to see the commander staring at him with an expression that the translator labeled as reassessing threat level. They crested a ridge just as the sun started its descent. Below, in a rocky valley studded with cave openings, Jake spotted what he was looking for, the den site, and surrounding it, at least 6 large shapes moving through the shadows. "There," Jake said quietly. "The whole pack." Vex joined him at the ridgeline, breathing hard. "How did you know?" "Because they've been leading us here all day, testing us, tiring us out, making sure we're far enough from our ship that we can't call for immediate backup." Jake scanned the valley. "Classic predator tactics. Isolate your prey, then strike when they're vulnerable. But we have weapons, technology, which you've already demonstrated you'll use poorly under pressure." Jake said it without judgment, just stating fact. They've seen you panic, seen you waste ammunition, seen you nearly kill each other with friendly fire. They know you're not really hunters. Not anymore. Vex's chest plates flattened. Submission, or maybe shame. And you? Jake thought about his childhood in Montana, tracking black bears with his grandfather. That time he'd spent 36 hours following a wounded cougar that was threatening a ranch. The summers he'd worked with conservation teams, tracking and studying apex predators across 3 continents. I've been doing this since I was 8 years old, he said, against animals that actually wanted to kill me. Below, one of the wren claws raised its head, looking directly at their position. Jake met its gaze. The hunt, he realized, had just entered a new phase. We make camp here, Vex declared as the last of the orange sunlight faded. Tomorrow we attack the den at dawn when they are sleeping. Jake, who had been studying the valley's layout, turned slowly. You want to camp here, on this ridge, in the open, as night falls. Yes, we have defensive equipment, perimeter sensors. We will be perfectly safe. Vex, buddy, when do wren claws hunt? The commander paused in the act of deploying his shelter unit. The data files indicate they are opportunistic feeders. The data files are wrong. I've been watching them all day. They're nocturnal. Those eyes. That's not just intimidation, that's serious low-light vision. And did you notice how they moved, preferred shadowed areas, avoided direct sunlight? Jake pointed down at the valley where the wren claws had essentially vanished into the darkness. In about 30 minutes, they're going to become active, and guess what? We're going to be the most interesting thing in their territory. Crix's translator emitted a sound like a whimper. Then we return to the ship, Thornick said. Regroup. Come back with proper support. We're 6 hours from the ship, Jake said. In the dark, in their territory, while they're at peak activity. He shook his head. We wouldn't make it 2 kilometers. Vex's claws scraped together. Then what do you suggest, human Jake? Jake dropped his pack and started pulling out equipment. We make ourselves very hard to eat. The next 20 minutes, Jake moved with practiced efficiency. He gathered deadwood and dried vegetation, building a fire ring. Not just one fire, but 3 positioned in a triangle. The Scarix watched with what their translators interpreted as confused concern. Vex asked, We have thermal barriers, energy shields, advanced defensive systems, which will fail the moment a wren claw hits them hard enough. Jake arranged stones around the fire pits. Fire is primal. Every predator on Earth fears it. Because fire is unpredictable. It spreads. It destroys. No matter how tough you are, fire wins. Wren claws are not from Earth. Bet they still don't like fire. Jake started pulling out other items. Reflective blankets, noisemakers, chemical deterrents he'd requisitioned from the ship's emergency supplies. Also, we're going to need to make noise. Lots of it. Irregularly. We should be silent. Not announce our position. They already know exactly where we are. Jake lit the first fire using a striker. The flames caught, grew, pushed back the darkness. We've been leaving a trail all day. They've been watching us for hours. Silence won't help. But making ourselves seem dangerous, unpredictable, not worth the effort. That might. Fire. He positioned the Scarix at the 3 fire points, gave each of them a noisemaker. Every few minutes, at random intervals, make noise. Shout. Bang something. Throw rocks into the darkness. We want them to think we're alert, aggressive, and crazy enough to attack them. This is primitive, Vex protested, but Jake noticed he'd moved closer to his assigned fire. Primitive works. My ancestors survived saber-toothed cats with nothing but fire and attitude. Jake took the center position, tranquilizer rifle across his lap. Trust me on this one. The first hour of darkness was tense but uneventful. The Scarix made noise as instructed, though their hearts clearly weren't in it. Jake kept the fires fed, watching the darkness beyond the light. Then he heard it. The soft pad of massive paws on stone. Multiple sets. Circling. They're here, he said quietly. I do not see anything on my sensors, Vex whispered. That's because your sensors are designed for technological threats. These are biological. Jake stood, grabbed a burning branch from the fire, and hurled it into the darkness. There was a startled snarl, the sound of something large retreating. "Everyone make noise. Now." The scarix responded, and the night erupted with sound, shouting, banging, the crackle of fire. Jake saw eyes reflecting in the darkness. Multiple sets. Definitely more than 6 rend claws. Maybe 8 or 9. The largest one, probably the alpha, stepped into the firelight. It was massive, easily 5 meters, scarred and ancient. It studied Jake with intelligent eyes. Jake didn't flinch. He picked up another branch, lit it, and stepped forward. Not attacking, but not retreating either. He shouted, a wordless challenge, then banged his tranquilizer rifle against a rock. The alpha Renclaw's ears went back. It snarled, but didn't advance. Jake shouted again, louder, and threw the burning branch. It landed a meter in front of the alpha, sparks flying. For a long moment, predator and human locked eyes. Then the alpha huffed, turned, and melted back into the darkness. The other sets of eyes vanished with it. Jake maintained his aggressive posture for another 5 minutes, making noise, waving fire. When he was certain they'd retreated, he returned to the center of the camp. The 3 scarix stared at him. "What?" Thornak asked. "Did we just witness?" "Humans establishing dominance," Jake said, feeding more wood to the fires. "Welcome to Earth biology, gentlemen. Sometimes the best defense is a good aggressive display." Vex's translator struggled, finally settling on. "I am experiencing an emotion for which I have no proper reference." "Fear?" Jake suggested. "Respect," Vex corrected. "And yes, also fear." Dawn broke cold and gray, and Jake had barely slept. The Renclaws had probed their defenses twice more during the night, each time retreating when met with fire and noise. But Jake knew they were running out of time. The pack was getting bolder, and his human trick of aggression would only work for so long against truly hungry predators. "We need to end this today," he announced, brewing terrible instant coffee over the fire embers. Vex, who looked like he hadn't slept at all, clicked his agreement. "We attack the den, kill the alpha. The pack will disperse." "No, we're not killing anything." Jake pulled out his datapad, sketching quickly. "We're Conservation Corps, remember? Our job is to relocate problem animals, not execute them. These creatures have killed livestock, threatened colonists. They are a threat that must be eliminated. They're predators doing what predators do. The colonists built on their hunting grounds." Jake finished his sketch. "We're going to trap the entire pack and move them to a protected reserve 300 kilometers north. Area is already approved for Renclaw habitation. Trap 9 apex predators." Vex's tone suggested Jake had proposed something absurd. "With what?" "With this." Jake showed them the sketch. It was elaborate. A funnel system using the natural valley terrain, enhanced with energy barriers from their equipment, leading to a large capture cage positioned at the valley's narrow end. "We use their own hunting instincts against them. Make them think they're chasing easy prey." Crix studied the plan. "This requires precise coordination, split-second timing, and assumes the Renclaws will behave exactly as predicted. They will, because they're predators, and predators are predictable." Jake pointed at the valley map. "They'll be hungry after a night of failed hunting. They'll be aggressive, and they'll see one apparent injured human as an opportunity too good to pass up." "Injured human?" Vex asked. Jake smiled. "That would be me." The next 3 hours were spent in frantic preparation. Jake positioned the scarix at strategic points, gave them each specific tasks, and triple-checked every energy barrier connection. The capture cage, a massive portable unit from their ship's cargo hold, was positioned and activated. The funnel system was crude but effective, using a combination of terrain, scent markers, and energy barriers to create a path of least resistance. "Remember," Jake told them via comm, "you wait for my signal, not before. If you jump early, this whole thing falls apart." "And if they kill you before you give the signal?" Thornak asked. "Then you've got 9 angry Renclaws and no human to solve your problems. Motivating, right?" Jake positioned himself in the valley center near the den entrances. He'd prepared a medical pack with fake blood, torn his jacket artistically, and was practicing an appropriately convincing limp. Every predator on Earth responded to perceived weakness. He was betting wren claws were the same. The first wren claw emerged at mid-morning. The same injured one from yesterday, Jake noticed. Still the scout. It spotted Jake immediately, went rigid with interest. Jake turned, deliberately showing his back, and limped toward the valley's narrow end. Slowly, painfully, obviously vulnerable. The wren claw followed. More emerged from the dens. 5, 7, 9 total. The entire pack, just as Jake had hoped. The alpha brought up the rear, massive and calculating. Jake increased his limp, added a stumble. Behind him, he heard the pace of pursuing paws quicken. Not a full charge yet, but interested. Very interested. He was halfway through the valley when Crix panicked. "They are too close!" His translator shrieked over the comm. "I am activating the barriers." "No, wait!" Jake shouted, but Crix had already triggered the first energy barrier. It sparked to life directly behind Jake, instead of behind the wren claws where it was supposed to go. The pack, startled, scattered in 3 directions. The alpha turned back toward the dens. "Damn it!" Jake sprinted to the left, grabbing a remote trigger from his belt. He activated the secondary barriers, ones he'd placed as backups specifically for if the Scarrick screwed up. They materialized in a different pattern, cutting off the alpha's retreat. The alpha snarled, spun, and charged Jake directly. This was not part of the plan. Jake dove behind a boulder as 500 kilos of angry apex predator sailed over his head. He rolled, came up running, and triggered another barrier. This one worked, sort of. It flickered on, died, and then rebooted, creating a strobing effect that disoriented 3 of the wren claws. "Thornek, northern barriers now," Jake shouted. "Which ones are northern?" "The ones facing north." "Where is north?" Jake was going to fire every single one of them if he survived this. He ran between 2 rock formations, the alpha close behind. Vex, to his credit, finally did something useful and activated the western barriers at exactly the right moment. They formed a wall that channeled 4 of the wren claws toward the capture cage. Jake grabbed another remote, this one controlling bait packages. He triggered them, releasing a burst of synthesized prey scent. The wren claw's head snapped toward the smell, noses working. They altered course, heading for the cage opening. The alpha, however, was still fixed on Jake. Personal now, apparently. "Hey, big guy," Jake panted, scrambling up a rock slope. "Nothing personal, right? Just doing my job." The alpha lunged. Jake jumped, felt claws rake his pack, tearing it free. He hit the ground, rolled, and came up without his supplies. The alpha landed between him and safety, blocking his escape. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Jake slowly raised his hands. "Okay," he said quietly. "You win. I'm prey. You're predator. Natural order of things." The alpha's lips pulled back, showing teeth designed to crush bone. Jake whistled, sharp and loud. The alpha's ears twitched, confused by the non-threatening sound. Jake whistled again and triggered the final barrier with a hand signal to Vex. The barrier formed in a complete circle around both Jake and the alpha. Then the ground beneath them, a pre-positioned cargo platform Jake had spent an hour setting up last night, activated. It rose, lifting them both 3 meters into the air. The alpha, suddenly on an unstable surface with no escape route, forgot all about Jake and focused on not falling. It crouched, snarling as the platform smoothly transported them both toward the capture cage. Jake sat down, catching his breath. Elevator trick. Works every time. The platform deposited them at the cage entrance. The other 8 wren claws were already inside, attracted by the bait and herded by the barriers. The alpha, seeing its pack, made a choice. It bounded into the cage with them. Jake rolled off the platform and triggered the cage door. It slammed shut. 9 apex predators trapped, all alive, all unharmed. "We did it," Vex said over the comm, his translator adding unnecessary exclamation points. Jake lay on his back, staring at the orange sky. "No, I did it. You 3 nearly got me killed. But the outcome was successful. Vex, buddy, I love you like a brother. but you're never hunting with me again. The transport ship arrived 6 hours later. The Rend Claw pack, sedated and secured, would be relocated to the Northern Reserve by the end of the week. Jake watched them being loaded, feeling the satisfaction of a job completed without unnecessary death. Back at base, the mission report filed. Jake found Vex waiting in the common area. The commander had shed his armor, looked somehow smaller without it. "I owe you an apology," Vex said without preamble. "You really do," Jake agreed, pouring another cup of terrible coffee. "I underestimated your capabilities, your species. I viewed humans as prey animals, soft and weak." Vex's chest plates fluttered. "I was incorrect." "Yep. You are, perhaps, adequate hunters." Jake laughed. "Adequate? Right." He sat down across from Vex. "You want to know the funny thing? Humans aren't even that impressive by Earth standards. We're not the fastest, not the strongest, not the most aggressive. We're just persistent, clever. We use tools, we adapt. These qualities make you formidable. These qualities made us the most dangerous predator Earth ever produced." Jake took a sip of coffee. "We hunted mammoths to extinction, saber-toothed cats, giant ground sloths, dozens of megafauna species. Then we hunted smaller things, hunted them so effectively that we had to create laws to stop ourselves." Vex tilted his head. "Laws against hunting? Protected species lists, endangered species acts, hunting seasons and bag limits. Because left unchecked, humans will hunt everything. For food, for sport, for resources, for the challenge." Jake gestured at the window, toward the stars. Earth is the only planet in the known galaxy that had to legally protect animals from its apex predator. That is disturbing. It's reality. Humans didn't get to the top of the food chain by being gentle. Jake finished his coffee. "We're persistence hunters with opposable thumbs, complex language, and the ability to sweat. We can outlast anything, outthink anything, and we cooperate in terrifyingly effective ways. The only thing that ever stopped humans from hunting was other humans saying, 'Hey, maybe we should leave some animals alive.'" Vex was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Your planet is a death world. Pretty much. And your species is an apex predator that evolved to outhunt everything it encountered." "Yep. This information should be included in the Galactic Conservation Corps briefing materials." Jake smiled. "Probably." The next morning, Jake found a new assignment posted on the mission board. A pack of aggressive pack hunters on a colony world in the Deneb sector. Extremely dangerous. Volunteers requested. Under the posting, someone had added a note in Scarrick script. Jake's translator rendered it as, "Perhaps the human should handle this one. The rest of us will provide support from a safe distance." It was signed by Vex. Jake grabbed the assignment, grinning. Word was spreading through the Galactic Conservation Corps. Earth's Death World Persistence Hunter was available for difficult cases. The soft prey species that was anything but soft. He figured by the end of the year, every alien in the Corps would know the truth. Humans weren't prey animals playing at being predators. They were the predators every other predator should be afraid of. And that thought, Jake decided, was worth at least another cup of terrible coffee.